Hi, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you live. Welcome to another episode of Body and Soul, a soundtrack to see forever too. We are working on CP time. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I want to thank everybody for being here. Uh, I'm Q. I'm going to be the storyteller, the facilitator for story from my amazing cast, which I would love to introduce you to once again. We'll start from how they're showing up on my screen right now. That's going to be Candace first.
Hi, that's me. My name is Candace, also known as Candace the Magnificent. My pronouns are they, she. Today I am playing Iath, and Iath uses any pronouns, all pronouns, really. They are the god of lifestyle, wealth, and literature, and the spoken, like the written word. Language, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Stefan or Stefan.
Yes, all both apply because the Creole side says Stefan, so I go by both. So I am a TTRPG scholar and pop culture historian, and also historian of marginalized groups in history. You can find me on Twitter, now X, at Umbral_Knight X. And I use he, him, but I am playing Anansi, the spider, and as a trickster, all pronouns are acceptable, depending on what's happening at the moment. So
Fantastic. We love to have you here as always. Mark.
Hey everyone, it's your boy Mark J in the house. I'm playing Buna, the god of death in the story. My pronouns are he, they. Buna's pronouns are also he, they. And as always, it's a pleasure to be here.
The pleasure is ours collectively. And of course, Liz.
That's me. Hey everybody, I'm Dauntless. You can call me Daunt or Liz. My pronouns are she, they, and I am playing Hathor, formerly the goddess of beauty, womanhood, fertility, now blossoming into a new chapter of her eternal life, stepping into celebrating music and dance, and specifically Black music and dance. Hathor's pronouns are also she, they. So, yeah.
Incredible. We are moving into the 80s. Disco brings in the synths, and they are turned up to 11. We find the beginnings of house music here. Rap is beginning to blossom, hip hop, as it were. Big names are out for the world to see in the 80s. Michael Jackson is bad. He's got Thriller. We've got Whitney Houston just wanting to dance with somebody. There are countless Black artists in the spotlight. But we, as a people, still stay within the margins. Our neighborhoods are cram-packed. We're so close with not nearly as many resources. We make do, we let go and let God, as they say. We're dealing with drugs and violence, but we're still out here alive. So, it's the 80s. Let's start with Anansi. How are the 80s treating you?
80s are an interesting time as the uh, wild clothing and earth tones of the 70s give way to the pastels and bright colors of the 80s, which Anansi would, like some of the more colorful spiders of the world, would embrace the colorful elements. And I think you would certainly find Anansi in all of these places, in inner city areas in particular around the nation, like Compton and Harlem and the south side of Chicago, and all of those things. Anansi would be moving through those areas and looking for the people in those areas who are giving new voices to the plight of Black people across the nation, as the president of the United States declares his war on drugs, which, as it turns out, is just a war on Black people in inner cities, largely in so many ways. And looking for people who are pushing back against that through their expressions in music and through their expressions in other forms of entertainment, to let the world know what's happening and how we're being seen and perceived. And so that's, I think, where Anansi would be kind of moving in and keeping a lookout for his siblings and their activities in some of those same spheres.
Absolutely. And speaking of your siblings, Buna, I feel like the 80s is a busy time for you.
It is a very busy time for me. It's like a war on the street sometimes. And this is Buna's lovely familiar. Hello. We love her, but she don't get it. The 80s are an incredibly busy time for Buna. Death is everywhere. AIDS, crack epidemic, gang warfare. I'm bringing my gifts, death, to many Black people across the land. I can see with each death the impact, like ripples on the waves of water. I can see glimpses of what each death will bring. And now more than ever, the ripples I see are more deaths. Death upon death upon death. It's draining. Before, in the past, people would greet me, sometimes graciously. They would welcome death. But now, the people who I give my gifts to, they're haggard, they're worn. They have no fight left in them. It's a little depressing.
Fair. And both in like inner cities, as you know, Anansi is in south side of Chicago, Harlem, Compton. You also have other smaller groups that are feeling the effects just sort of the 80s. I you are with a particular collection of folk who are dealing with something. You heard the murmurings of it, and then it became a whole, a whole thing in the 80s. Houses rise and fall due to AIDS. How's Ayath been dealing with that?
Ayath has been in a deep sense of struggle. Studio 54 ends in the 70s. They look for something new. They find all these beautiful houses only to watch them immediately extinguish. They see the beauty of theater and dance, especially people like Alvin Ailey, these thought leaders. Spends time with Hathor, kind of watching over our people. They're not doing well, but they're also, to a newly coined phrase, bougie to admit that she's not doing well. So he stays busy, like just busy all the time. Trying to spread wealth to their communities to hopefully have a chance, like a lot of white people might have chances, even though this disease is still coming for everyone and no one seems to give one fuck about it. No one's trying to stop it. No one's trying to take care of it. Lots of meetings with Horus to see if there's anything that can be done to keep people safe. And I think Ayath also kind of starts to try to inspire people to form a new consciousness. Lots of poems written, lots of essays and articles written, the rise of almost like a second Harlem Renaissance where you've got, big thinkers, the Afrocentric movement starting to rise, the Black studies starting to take shape with Henry Louis Gates and other professors around the country. The normalization of culture is something that I think that Ayath is really working hard at to hopefully reduce the barriers between ourselves and the world around us. Almost like a cultural exchange. Ayath is like, maybe it is the best idea to just like let our tendrils reach as far as they can. Maybe people will understand us more. So I think that's how she's chosen to handle all of this, is just staying busy, putting as much into the culture as possible, and roller skating their heart out.
That is very fair. And you do see some interconnectivity starting. It's not widespread. Many of the houses of the ball scene, are of course created because, Black and brown folk weren't really welcome in the white spaces nearly as readily. But I think the crisis, the disease, brings them all together. You see Horace moving about the world, trying his best to focus on healing. He is with the lesbians that were the only ones to go into the hospitals because people were too afraid. You are with one of the many queens that is going to visit a friend who has been unafraid or cared too much to not go and see their loved one. And you find Horace there one time. He's posed as a doctor who is reading over notes, and you can see the deep intensity of his study.
I think
He
Ayath
gives you a
brings,
nod. Sorry.
I think Ayath brings food and flowers every time she visits. Not just for him, but for the people that are there. Attempts to give comfort and soften the weight of this burden.
Good. He's busy a lot. But it is appreciated, and you can see it and feel it whenever you do come and visit. Do you ever bring Hathor?
I do. I imagine we probably go independently, since Hathor is probably there both in the hospital and out of it, trying to console the mothers losing their children, especially their sons. I think there's a change in Iath during this time. He's always been very brash, right? He's always been very bold and unafraid, but seeing the shift in the balance between the dying out of the queer culture that rose up in the 70s and the rise of shame in the communities of color, especially among young queer Black men, is something that she's really, really struggling with. Knowing that to be safe is to be out, even though it doesn't really seem that way. But recognizing that so many people are losing their lives because they can't bear to be who they are on the outside and be safe. And I think that in the place of that boisterous and bubbly person, oftentimes it's more this person that shows up, same smile, same narrowed eyes, same glittering behind the smile, but skin a little duller, hair a little lank, not as radiant as they once were, but trying.
Absolutely. And the effort is evident. Hathor.
Hathor is busy, but I think she's also keeping herself busy in a lot of ways. She's just come into this place in this impossibly long life of theirs where they are starting to understand who they are. And so their number one priority is to try and give that feeling back to the people and the descendants of the people who helped them understand who they are in the first place. So I think, obviously there's the big names that are going to continue to pop up through the next couple of decades. But I think she spends a lot of time with young, poor Black artists, people who have maybe $2 to their names, who are in buildings that they don't own, recording beats and mailing them off and hoping. I think she's trying to shift from that feeling. She wants to capture that feeling that music will give you, where you feel as though, yes, you feel like you can expel your soul through the song, but also being able to deliver it in hand to another person. So she's spending a lot of time with these young, poor Black artists, a lot of Black men specifically, to help them shape their conversations about their experiences growing up in this time and how to deliver it most potently so that it can touch other people and that other people like them will hear it. And that's like a full-time job as it is, but I
Hmm.
think what they're giving the most time to is IF. I think IF has been such a guiding light for Hathor in just the last couple of decades, especially. And so they are by your side quietly. And when it seems like you would want to be left alone, they are in the vicinity trying to pick up slack where they can to just help. Um, Especially with the AIDS crisis, I think Hathor's domain isn't visual art or anything in that realm, but I think she spends a lot of time visiting artists that are expressing their pain, their grief, and their sorrow. She's visiting not just mothers and families that are losing loved ones, but the lovers that are left behind. Because this is a whole new kind of loss in en masse. Um, I think Hathor is just trying to, I guess, steady things so that her siblings can just kind of move around her, providing expression as a scaffolding for the pain that's rocking our community in waves.
I
Absolutely.
think I think mixed in all that too, that Anansi would be spending a lot of time, because there's a kind of a chilling thing in this time frame that, for a very long time, elements of the Black church gave our community, you know, a sense of connectedness and a sense of comfort through some very dark times. But along with that came kind of a host of things that in this time frame has made a lot of Black people shun uh, the community that is being struck by the AIDS crisis, uh, because in their eyes it goes against the religion. And so I think Anansi would be doing things behind the scenes to try and counter the narrative that is kind of rooted in certain parts of the church that um, this is a deserved evil to be visited upon people who are sinning. And uh, Anansi would, you know, do what they could to kind of shift some of that narrative and apply things to the music and the things like this. And also, I think as the decade wears on, contribute to demonstrating, of course, so much um, hatred is directed because this is considered a homosexual disease by so many people, and that is so far from the truth. But
Mhm.
that's the perception that people have, and a lot of dark things come out of that. Sadly, even within the Black community, especially within some segments of the Black community, um, because of the misinformation and the fear, um, that all of this comes together to kind of whip up into a frenzy. So Nancy would be trying to like re-steer some of that.
Absolutely. Um, Go ahead and roll me if you have like deceit or if you have rapport. It's not that you're lying, but you are trying to navigate and negotiate some things. So,
Yes. And I think too, I would also add that I think Anansi would be um, connected. I think even more so um, to the to this kind of sibling connection, because I think there's uh, this intersection in this particular time of all of these elements coming together particularly around this crisis and the crisis of drugs in inner cities and all of these things. So all of these things with what Buna is doing and what Ioth is doing and what Hathor is doing, Anansi would be kind of putting that web out and making those connections and bringing kind of everything into kind of a central place, because I think more now than ever there's an overlap, and even though we've been together and we've seen each other all this time, I think what's going on now goes to another level of
Yeah.
connectedness.
Absolutely. So go ahead and make a roll for me. Deceit or rapport, I believe, are available options. You've muted yourself. Uh-oh. You know what?
I did, and then my button didn't wanna work. So
Every
that
time
would
I ask you
be,
to roll, something happens.
I was like, what is this? So I got a -1 on the die, but I have a +4 um with deceive. So
Very good. You are the whisper in people's ears. I think not just for, trying to get the church folk to understand, because they've got the people in the pulpit yelling fire and brimstone. I think where your words fall are those people sort of on the fence. And then it's also for the people, you're a shit stirrer. Like, you stir the pot. It's a Nazi.
yes,
I think you're the beginning whispers of like the starts of like ACT UP. Like the groups that are speaking out and speaking up about wanting to get like research studies done for this. So you are the beginnings of the murmurs of the resistance. And
yes. I think
I
Anansi
think
would be. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think Anansi would be not in the spotlight, but always whispering in those ears of the people who are leading the protests, of the people who are, the informational campaigns and things like that.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think we will sort of take a moment where you all are together. It's a ball. Being one of the gods, at least, in our story, that has certainly claimed gender expression and the fluidity. The girls are always here for you. Even when you're not at your best, they still reach out to you, seek you from time to time. You are mother, even though you have no house. So you all are there. The MC is giving the category. And you all are at a table watching. The category is opulence. And the queens have brought out all of the stops. It is a full-on production. Because even in these times, scary though it is, they fight in their own ways. and that is to experience the joys, these moments together, in spite of the hardships and the loss they face.
I think that's like the one time that you really see the true Iath come out. They show up, it is an extravaganza. At least 3 pounds, maybe 4 or 5 pounds of hair atop her head. Just like face beat, glitter of all types across their entire body. Sky high heels, and they party. Like, they party. They're not there to compete. They're there to oversee. They take their place at the back of the club, looking down at all these beautiful children. And she tries to whisper inspiration in people's ears. She knows there's tourists here, people who don't necessarily belong, whether they're filmmakers, whether they're writers, screenwriters, dramaturgs. People from outside of the Black community have started to come inside. And all she tries to do, knowing that for a long time, I mean, the very first drag ball that she was privy to was in the 1800s. Freed slave and his brother would host integrated drag balls for people. So she's used to the outsiders who have nowhere else to go. And I think that he basically goes around and all night, through compliments, through suggestion, tries to instill that flamboyance and that commitment to authenticity in every ear that they whisper into.
Incredible.
I think Hathor is probably doing something similar, but I am up to shenanigans. Hathor arrives in just probably what I would call an obscene amount of gold and is going to go full Egyptian themed for the ball. So just glittering long skirts, like the brightest turquoise available, coal liner, everything.
Lapis
And we'll really
lazuli.
lean into it.
That,
And
yeah.
but the shenanigans, I would like to use popular. I'll spend a fate point here. I want to use popular to start kind of just whispering to some of the dolls and be like, and try to see if we can get someone to start a house in Ayath's name or in Ayath's honor.
Okay.
Because I notice he hasn't done that yet, and I'm personally offended by that. So
Okay.
I'm going to just kind of just moving around the crowd and take any opportunity for conversation, keep an eye on the competition. Anyone that
Okay.
stands out in a category, not necessarily winners, but anybody that stands out in a category, just kind of, pulling them over and start laying seeds. I'm taking a page out of a 90's book.
I think one of the people that you sort of talk to about that goes, "Are you going to walk the category?"
I was trying to be subtle.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, no.
What?
Hey, my love, my light. You are in full gold and you said turquoise. No, ma'am. Absolutely not.
Okay, yeah, we don't walk category. Why not? Why
Okay.
not? All right.
Fantastic. Hey, give me your best skill. Sell it to me.
Okay. All right. Well, my best skill is rapport. So I am going to approach this as I'm working the crowd, honey. All right. Like, Hathor has the technical skill. Hathor has the hips. Hathor has the flow and the movement and the flexibility. That's not a question. But what she does have, more so than anything, is the ability to captivate and to work the crowd. So 100% walking up to other people, like other queens, and then dropping back bends and just leaning into the theme that honors their heritage, but it's definitely taking up some space here.
Iath is
Of
in the
course.
back watching this, like unfurls their fan and is just like, girl.
Mhm. Incredible. Go ahead and make that roll for me.
All right, this is big money, no whammies. Big money, no whammies. Okay, I got a 0, but my rapport is +5, so I'll take it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Like
I'll take it.
like you have it as long as you're not rolling like a -4, which
Yeah.
ooh, heaven forbid. I don't wish that on any of y'all. So you are serving the children, obviously. You are out strutting, proud, dips, just face card, never declining.
I'm a
You
fan
have
here.
mhm.
Me
Say,
too.
if any of you are familiar with the Paris is Burning clip, it is like the opulence, you own everything. That line is obviously pointed at you. Yes. All of the judges are on their feet. The other contestant is forgotten, and I'm sorry to the girls. We apologize. Like even your opponent in this, like your opponent in this category, has stepped back because they are just simply in awe of the beauty and the performance.
If I win anything, I'm going to give it to my opponent in a gesture, like a kind gesture. I'm not trying to start shit.
Mhm. Right. Right. Yeah. So and they go the MC goes, honey, who are you though?
Don't worry about it. I'll be back. I will snap my fan that I suddenly have.
What's your house?
House of Iath, baby. I'm gonna start walking over
Crowd
to Iath.
is losing it. Ayat, you are you were in the muckety muck with the kikiing with the girls, and they immediately turn. Why didn't you tell us you were starting a house?
I did not start that house, honey. It was not me. That's well, that's my sibling. And they are
Oh,
radiant tonight.
yeah, she's giving everything.
Everything
So
she
wait,
has.
so it's not your house then?
Well, I didn't say that.
Ah, okay. All right. So I want in, obviously.
Sign-ups are open. All of you beautiful creatures, beautiful things. But you gotta promise me you're never gonna let this go.
Never. Till the day I die.
I sign as many people there as I can.
Hmm.
And I think in times after, there are check-ins. Like at least 5 times a year, there is a sign of some kind, whether it's just a random scroll dropped off in their mail telling them that they're beautiful and that they shine like the sun, whether that's flowers on their nightstand one morning they wake up and suddenly they're there, little gifts, chances and opportunities that they maybe wouldn't have otherwise had, lots of backup dancers, lots
Sure.
of people that have things written about them, maybe not themselves doing something amazing, but someone else honoring them and raising them up. I think Iath tries to keep that protection over those people for as long as she can.
Absolutely.
I,
And I
I
think
think I was gonna say I think at about that time is when Anansi would show up, because Anansi was engaged elsewhere, knowing the nature of these sorts of things and how things work. So Anansi knows that they cannot be everywhere at once and cannot prevent all of the bad things that are happening. But there are times when a thread can be tugged in the web. And in this case, that police raid that was supposed to come to 1635 West Front Street tonight, where everyone is, there was a clerical error, and that raid is going to 1635 East Front Street, which just so happens to be the headquarters of a white supremacist biker gang, by some strange coincidence.
That is very, it's weird. It's weird how that would happen. Buna, I know, as our resident goth, as our disco goth. This may not be your normal scene, but your siblings are here. And I think even with the joy, you know that your presence is needed. I think it's an interesting time here in this decade, because it's a lot of slow death. So I think sometimes, there is the violence, the gang violence that is occurring in this time, but also with the AIDS, you are seeing a lot of drawn out little gifts, small ripples that are happening. You're here with one person.
May I ask a question first?
Yes.
Is water wet?
Yeah, well.
Then how can death be goth? Okay. Death just is. They want to be me until they created goth. That's all I'm saying. Please go on.
My bad. I'm sorry. I didn't put respect on your name, and
I'm
that's
just doing
me.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Absolutely.
They saw
we're
me
not
and said,
familiar
I
with
gotta
their
do
game.
Yeah.
Right. No, that was I fucked up, and that's and I have to recognize that. I apologize. But yes, you are here. Just doing you.
I'm in the room with my usual retinue of followers, just people who happen to find me. There's always someone worshiping death. And they are looking sharp, actually. Mostly in black, of course, some in dark reds. But they've created a house around me. I don't know how that happened, but it just happened. And nobody likes them. Nobody wants to be around reflections of death and decay, but we still represent somehow.
Sure.
But
their death drops are killer.
Oh, yes. Oh. They're frightening, actually.
You were saying?
I've seen the power of this club and what it brings, but I also see the worst of it. All the white people, not all, some of the white people that have been allowed into the culture to observe, to view, they bring with them me in the form of powdered cocaine. And I can see some of the people in the back rooms, and with every snort, I hear my name being called. It's a party of beauty and elegance. But for some, it's fueled by me. Nevertheless, I see my siblings loving life, enjoying life, participating in humanity. It's some of the most beautiful time in the face of what we've all seen. So you find death just quietly in the corner, watching, observing, seeing his minions perform acts in service of death, and just another day in some ways.
Fantastic. Sitting at a table next to you, like your chairs are inches apart, is an older queen who is just sitting out, staring at the festivities, at the goings on. There's just this gentle smile, soft. You can see that they are experiencing the joy vicariously through the younger children. And there's a sadness to it as well, a weariness. She's tired, but hopeful. And the queen turns to look at you. It's been a lovely party, hasn't it?
Good one. Tell me, what do you enjoy most about this experience?
That we can have it in the first place. That we are still able to love and laugh and live. That we can come together in a place that we call ours.
I extend my hand to her to hold her hand.
And she will take it.
And as we touch, I can see the gifts I've brought her ancestors through the years, the gift of death through the years. And I can see how far her blood has come to this point. And I say, yes, you've come a long way to get here. And you deserve this celebration.
Is it time to go?
Let's have a few more moments.
Okay. And she settles in. You all get to sit back and watch as they give the final awards. She's beaming as the winner is crowned for the evening. And then she stands of her own volition. Okay. I'm ready.
Shall we dance? And I give her the gift of death.
I think the other three of you see Buna walking out with one of the older queens that you know. And you see her look back to Ayath, and Hathor. Anansi is somewhere, but there is a smile, gentle and grateful.
I want to introduce you to some people. Your people. They're going to love you.
Good, I can't wait.
I'll blow her a kiss, and if I have something to drink, I'll raise it in her honor. If I know if she was attached to a house, if I know which one it is, I'm gonna go consult those girls as well. Just kind of keep their eye off of it.
Of course.
I think Ayath bows deeply to her, kisses both cheeks, and then waits outside to make sure that this is taken care of the right way when the paramedics show up.
Mm-hmm. It is. Absolutely. You make sure that they keep it together. There's a black paramedic there. A woman who has sees the situation, sees the hesitance with her counterpart, and just takes the lead, takes over. She will look at you. What was her name? And you can give it, and she makes sure to write her name down while still having the, identification.
I
So
think for once, Anansi would appear alongside Buna with the spirit, and would produce a crown of woven together purple and gold, and gently place it atop their head and say, queens were always important to us. There and here, they are our compass.
This
amazing.
crown made of ants or something? Is this another one of your tricks, Anansi?
Not in this case. No. There is always a time for stories and tricks, but there are also moments of reverence for those figures that have always been central to our people and who have always meant something in our community and have always shined a light to show us where we should go.
I reach out my hand towards Anansi. As a handshake. And for just a moment, Anansi sees what I can see, which is a glimpse of the ripples this death has caused. And Anansi sees the joy and light. But it's many, many ripples down. It's going to take a while for the impact to finally be felt. But I just give Anansi a quick glimpse.
As
Nancy
we
will just nod at this and say, this is why each of us has our place.
as we move away from that scene, we move forward in time. The AIDS crisis is finally taken seriously because of the death of some white person. But it's finally taken seriously. People are getting what help they need. There's still a stigma about it, but it is better. And for the actual first change, the House of Aya stands, has the best queens. They are a name synonymous or on the level of Ninja Extravaganza. And the queen that you all bid farewell to that night is made a posthumous honorary mother. And as we roll into the 90s, things are as ever changing and shifting. And when we come back from break, we'll see what those changes look like for everyone. I know it's a little earlier than probably we expected, but we had we had some emotions. So
Y'all are trying to
yeah,
kill me over here. Like
I
I see the concerted group effort. I see it happening. Oh my god.
yeah. So we're gonna take a quick break. And then we will be back with you guys, okay? Hi, and welcome back to Body and Soul, a soundtrack to see forever to. Uh, we had a nice little break, get ourselves together, and now we can get into the 90s. Hip hop has evolved, shifted, changed into something. It's certainly something, isn't it? uh, and R&B is out here coming for everybody's neck. Those are three-part harmonies. The boy bands are giving you a neu. And all the while, our people are living much the same. Black on black crime is a very popular speaking point. And I know at some point there's mention of super criminal, which is a wild thing, but it is definitely one of those things that that was brought up. So in 90s with hood rap and videos, how do we find Hathor?
I'm glad you asked. Hathor is still busy. But in a different way. I think the sorrow from the AIDS crisis is still very fresh. And she's trying to hold on to that one ballroom night as we continue forward in time. Hathor is so immensely proud of these young Black men who have now become MCs and are distributing their music and their art. And she thinks back to Harlem in the 30s, to having to sneak people into her rudimentary little studio to get them on a record. Its times have changed and it is beautiful, but there is this sinking feeling in the back of her head as she watches all of these immensely talented Black women perform in videos and become sex symbols as video vixens and hip hop honeys. It's a conflict in the sense of the Hathor that had left Egypt with a question of who they were, and the Hathor who's standing here now, because as proud as they are to see what music has become, what expression has become, despite the way that we are still very much fighting to get out from under a boot. There's always another boot to get out from under. It really hurts to see Black women re-commodified and objectified without their own agency. And so I think Hathor spends this time trying to do encouraging the artists that are up and coming, because she holds no ill will for them. I think she starts whispering in the ears of young women that are looking to bust out on the scene and think this is their only avenue. That the only way they'll be in a music video is if they're in the background in a bikini instead of being in front of the mic. I think that's what she starts working on. She starts planting for the future yet again, and is looking to their siblings for anything that they can really support with. I think Hathor's finally really found her stride as sort of like a guardian angel of the underground, and I think formally takes the title Goddess of Harmony.
Incredible. And I think it's important to note that while you were definitely working with the the men that were putting out the music that was hip hop, and you've seen that change and how some of the women are, as you mentioned, commodified. There are still women in that same field that are in front or behind the mic. Queen Latifah, MC Light, you got Foxy Brown, Lil Kim is out now, and my personal fave, Missy, which, like, she's out there, you know, Afrofuturism for sure. So I definitely think that you are seeing a lot of, you know, men, but there are still some women that are holding it down. And their representation here has certainly bolstered you and kept you afloat through these years. Anansi. Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, you say words right now. You do it right now.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Well, I have to say words. I was just gonna say, I think one more thing I would do is just check in with Horace. Nothing significant. I don't think I need to like corner him or anything, but just I didn't.
Sure.
He was busy for good reason.
Correct. Yeah.
And I just want to kind of make sure he's still busy for the right reasons and is doing okay. That's all.
I think currently you see him, you find him at one point, not in the office, but at one of the colleges, one of the HBCUs, in fact, because after the 80s, it is readily apparent that we need more Black doctors. And so he is turning his attention towards the knowledge aspect of things, specifically for healing and doctoring. And so when you find him, he has that focus as always, but it is not, he's not done yet, but you can definitely see the age of years, the wear and tear of eons in this world.
I'm not going to hound him. I see the sense of purpose on his shoulders and I don't wish to add to it. I'll just kind of every once in a while hang around campuses. If that means step happens, oops. You know,
I mean, you know,
if I trip and fall and invent step, you know, that's okay. But yeah, just I guess making sure that the lives that Horace is touching. There we go, grammar. The lives that he's touching are also people who are going to be able to find self-expression and their own wants and desires outside of championing themselves for the betterment of our people, making sure they're doing what they want to do because they want to do it and not just because they feel the impossible weight of generations of discrimination that they feel they have to single-handedly fix.
Absolutely. Anansi
would, of course, for as long as our people have been here on these shores, there has been an ongoing effort to co-opt our culture and what we have made of having the cultures that we brought from Africa taken from us, and so we crafted our own here, and even those then are taken from us, and that has always been a thing, but I think in this period, in the coming out of the 80s and into the 90s, we see this go to new heights as rap music and gangster rap in particular becomes popular with children who do not look like us. And the basketball shoes worn by a young man by the name of Michael Jordan become a phenomena across the nation. And all of these elements of, in so many other ways, of Black culture, the beginnings of an up and coming group that will break wide sometime later in the 90s by the name of Destiny's Child, will transform all of these different areas. And I think Anansi will be kind of a part of helping to bolster some of those things, and once again be the trickster that will help nudge a contract in a particular way, or help teach a lesson to perhaps those who appropriate these cultures without credit and who without an understanding for what they may mean. And of course, as always, get into a little bit of trouble by just being who Anansi is, and mixing it up with various things. And sometimes Anansi will find themselves on the short end of the equation, but that is the nature of being a trickster and a gambler. That sometimes you win, and sometimes you come up shorter than a snake in a ditch.
Very true. I think Anansi, at least in my head canon, and I'm running the game so I can say it.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of white people coming back from their vacations in Jamaica with cornrows. And and I definitely think that Anansi had something to do with that. This is a great idea. You should do it. And then they come back and then they get dragged. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And their hair falls out because their
Right.
texture is not made for it. Let's talk about that.
Let's do that. Yeah. No,
above
for
the
sure.
table, above the table, as a child that went to an all-white school, that was not fun for me, Anansi.
No.
It was not fun for me specifically. Me specifically, it was
for
bad.
Sure.
Anansi do something that people wouldn't like.
Candace, do you see my hair is like yours? I'm like,
oh yeah. Or say, hey, I'm almost as dark as you. If you don't, yeah.
My favorite. This is a very, very short anecdote. My favorite was I had a roommate in college who asked me, who was not of our melanin persuasion, who saw my braids and asked me if she could go get it done. And I was like, are you asking me for permission, or are you asking me how to do it? Because both are no. And so she would keep coming back with like colors and everything. I was like, okay, why do you want to do this? She's like, I just want hair like yours. She's like, that's good girl. That's a hurdle I can't help you jump.
Honey. We don't do that here.
So thank you for that. Anansi,
amidst all that, Anansi would certainly make sure that there's this new sensation arising in this time as various message boards are propping up, and Anansi is drawn to this new web, this World Wide Web. And
Anansi, I swear to God, if you were responsible for comment section, if that was you,
it's all coming together.
I mean, but Anansi would make sure that these stories about people who are making these appropriations would find their way onto these spaces where they would be much discussed and, as you pointed out, much drug. for this behavior.
Did Anansi make Black Twitter? Did Anansi make Black Twitter? Because I feel
Well,
like that's what. Okay,
maybe.
incredible.
We're not there yet.
Incredible.
We're not there yet.
No, right, exactly. That's next time. So Anansi is out here doing work. Let's see. Sure, we'll go Buna. How we doing in the 90s, bud?
Job is always the same for Buna. It's a little bit different now, though. I see my followers, the people that call themselves my followers, they, again, do more acts with it and what they think is my name. I see one group establish a record label in my name, Death Row Records. That wasn't me. Ridiculous. I see other groups, again, think that by killing and murdering, they can be like me. I don't take life, I give death. And with that, you can only give so much. Death is not an endless cup. I'm starting to run on fumes here. But the 90s are a good time. I'm seeing the ripples that I've seen in the past come to fruition. The beauty of reclaiming our essence, of coming back to our roots and reforming them in ways that make sense for us in America. It's something quite beautiful. It's its own being, its own life force. Which each death in the past, not only do I give death, but I also see the end of culture, one death at a time. But now new culture has arisen, new cultures are born, and it's wonderful to see them flourish from the deaths of their ancestors and people in the past.
Can I jump in here real
Yeah,
quick?
what's up, man?
I think Hathor and Buna cross paths or start to cross paths more often as gangster rap begins to take off and the following then subculture takes off and pops off. We cross paths often, but I think as the volume increases more and more, I think Hathor just kind of starts to hang around a little bit more, not just a brief meeting, but seeing how you are, just kind of hovering a little bit. You know, we're polar opposites, but she's a lot of respect for you, and knowing these young poets and knowing these rappers as they're coming up and then seeing you to greet them is almost a comfort when they go so young.
Absolutely.
I think Anansi would pull a little bit from there as well, and we have this moment going on as well where with between gangster rap but also in film, the likes of people like Spike Lee and others are giving a glimpse to parts of America that probably haven't seen many, if any, Black people. And Anansi would be a part of helping to push those stories into places, stories told about the plight of our community. But as Anansi often says, that you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them think. That some of these stories then, unfortunately, for these places that have no contact with Black people, become all that they see about us. These inner city stories, these stories of what's going on become tales that become cliches, I think, in some of these places of an understanding. And of course, Anansi would express some frustration with those who take in these stories but don't look beyond the surface.
Definitely. Oh yeah. Where are they at in the 90s? Where are you at?
Iath is on a journey. They are the 80s have just kind of depleted what's left. They still see remnants of their people. RuPaul is doing her thing. She's looking good. She's getting mainstream attention. Oprah Winfrey is out there fucking earning, making bank, spreading it around. Seeing good things happen, right? Seeing the poet Tracy Chapman in a relationship with the magnificent Alice Walker, right? Witnessing all kinds of wonderful events, still very much stuck on the lives that are being lost daily and watching a lot of legacies just flush down the toilet. And I think there's a time when they're just so angry, they don't really know what to do. He finds himself just wanting to just rip the world to shreds a little bit. Supporting Hathor, hearing, her talk about video vixens, video hoes, the complexities within, noticing that our queer femmes are taking the reins and are making bold moves, right? All of those names that you mentioned, I want to say about 90% of them gay. So Iath takes
Right.
that, right? Puts that feather in their cap to try and hold on to the last dregs of seriousness that she has, but is finally like, maybe this is a time where we need to just let it out. Maybe that's it. Excess has always been a way of letting it out. But there's something that just doesn't. Her siblings have hip hop covered. Her siblings have a lot of areas already kind of locked up. And I think Iath is just searching for something else, something, I don't know, something as boiling as I think they feel inside.
I mean, where do you think that would be?
I feel like Iath starts tiptoeing over into rock and roll. I think she's always had a foot in that door. Little Richard, obviously. Jimi Hendrix, clearly, right? In the 80s, this little brother Prince started doing some shit, started playing with gender and crossing that line and blurring it in a way that was captivating. And now they're in the 90s and they're seeing people from overseas bring their entertainment. Skunk Anansi out there, Skin on stage, screaming into a microphone, eyes wide, mosh pits, people just fucking getting hype and getting fucking heavy. People get punched in the face, lots of violence, but violence that unites people rather than drives them apart. Band called Death. Just Bad Brains. They're out there in the streets in their Doc Martens, big afro puffs, big hoop earrings, and they're fucking knocking teeth out at parties after hours in clubs and basement venues.
Amazing. And as a deity of lifestyle, the punk rock lifestyle is definitely one to behold. And
it is. I feel like they see the glitz and the glamour and the name brands, right? They see the Gucci and the Fendi and the, right? They see all of that, the Louis Vuitton, and they're just like, why are my people wearing white people's names all over their bodies? I did not struggle to see Tommy Hilfiger's face everywhere, to see his name everywhere. I did not do that. I did not work this hard to look at that. So no, I will not be taking part in that. I don't care about your repeating pattern. Come at me, I'll kick your fucking teeth in. Like, that's where Iath is. Iath is like,
for sure.
I've had it.
Absolutely. And while not as prevalent in the time you do see few people of color in those numbers, and they're drawn to you.
I
They
think another
feel
thing. Oh, sorry,
seen,
sorry.
yeah. I said they feel seen having you there and are accepted both by themselves and by the group at large.
I think this is a time when Iath starts to whisper in white people's ears too. I think that they get to a point where they realize, you know, as always, we can't do this alone. And when they go to these basement shows, when they're up in the DC scene, right, of hardcore,
Mhm.
they're whispering in ears. They're whispering in Greg Graffin's ear and Henry Rollins' ear about anti-racism, about the black people that came before them that inspired their earlier music, that being anti-Nazi, being anti-skinhead, right? That's the way to truly be counterculture. And you have to live it if you want to be it. I think that there's a lot of whispering too in black people's ears. You don't have to be what they tell you to be. You can be whatever the fuck you want. Everyone says that to their kids. You can grow up to be whatever you want. And all of us know that for black people, that's a pipe dream. You could say that to your kid, but you'd be lying to him. That doesn't mean you shouldn't aim high. It just means you need to be real. But in this case, in this community, whatever the fuck you want. And if you punch somebody at a show, that's part of the job, especially if they're a Nazi.
Absolutely, if they're a Nazi.
I, I I think on that note too, in this time frame, that Anansi would appear in particular places, that Anansi would perhaps tap on a window, bring someone to that window, and would put things in place so the person that came to that window had a camera. As several police beat a man by the name of Rodney King and demonstrate to the world something that we're all aware of, that we've seen, that we've known, that we've decried. But now that there is video for everyone else to see, that it will begin plant the very smallest seed, the beginnings of something bigger, that perhaps these things that Black communities have been saying about police brutality have some substance to them that has been long ignored, or pushed under to the margins or swept under rugs, can perhaps begin. And of course, always again thinking that of what might be, Anansi would sort of embrace these new technologies that connect people, and realize the power that for people to see these things happening, and not just hear people talking about them, and change narratives in sometimes small ways to begin with, but with that hope that that movement will grow.
Absolutely. And grow it does. In small ways, in big ways at points. The world is loud when that video comes out. The spotlight is put on police brutality. And of course, the powers that be use all of the tactics that they can to sort of sweep it under the rug. to distract from the things that are happening right under everyone's noses. But we have Anansi. So you, with your whispers and your web, you are able to keep them from fully getting rid of it. Someone's always got on it.
And of course,
Oh.
Nancy would be there to also, as before, as has always happened, as we approach another pressure valve of the LA riots, that Anansi would again whisper in those ears as from time to time, again, like has happened so many times in this place, where the oppressed need a release and the rage boils over. Anansi would also be there tugging on those strings.
Absolutely. Roll a rapport for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to start with you and then Hathor, and then we'll get to Buna about the LA riots.
+3 total on that roll. +3.
Fantastic.
My rapport added in.
You get the party going, as it were. The LA riot was 5 days. It was intense. Aya, were you there?
Oh yeah, kicking in windows, taking TVs, giving zero fucks, like huddling with people who are crying, people who are miserable, there when people were trying to resist, and then doing what he always does, coming up with bail, trying to get people places to hide, doing boots on the ground work, organizing, fundraising after the fact. And the entire time, a flame burning brighter and brighter and hotter inside of them, that it is the 1990s, and they are doing the same thing that they were doing in the 1960s. The amount of tongue biting and bile swallowing and talking through clenched, gritted teeth that they are doing at this point is just driving them further away from their natural center. And they're finding themselves looking at Buna as though they are mainstream, right? As though he is just a kindly gentleman looking at Anansi like maybe she's got some good ideas. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe we're not that far out. I feel like the one place that Iath is capable of thinking clearly is in shifting Black culture into the world of like comics. That's like the one area that Iath is still has some decorum. Otherwise, no.
And that's fair. I mean, LA, especially in that time, was notorious for their mistreatment. And it was just a sort of magnified incident that was really just an example and sort of par for the course there. So the burn it all, smash it to the ground approach was felt and appreciated. So having you there to support them, be there smashing those stores, was a boon, certainly.
They're all about making a statement. They've always been about making a statement. This is the way they do it now, apparently. This is just
Absolutely.
this is just who they are.
As you know, I can see the Reach of Death, what impact it'll have on the future, and I've been waiting for this version of you.
Well, I'm glad someone's happy to see me because I'm fucking exhausted.
You look the part. The 80s took a lot from you.
A lot. I don't think I'm going to be able to get it back. But maybe that's not so bad.
Whether it comes back or not, it's not for you to worry about. Just keep kicking ass. You've changed a lot. This place has changed you. These people have changed you.
What would I be if I'm immovable? I stare into the face of their pain, their rage, their disappointment, their eons of work that has landed them 5 feet further than they were before. Year after year, I see people toil. I see people fail. Even though they have all the ingredients to succeed now, even though we have proven time and time again that we're just as good, we're just as strong. We might even sometimes be a little bit greater because we know what it's like to struggle. And we still get here? Clearly, the pacifism isn't the way anymore. Obviously, we gotta fucking scare people, I guess. We gotta be rude and shitty and mean. And, you know, that isn't the way I want to be. It's hard to be like that. It's not really within me to not be patient, to not be kind. It eats me up a little bit. But it doesn't eat me up nearly as much as the injustice. So we're going with that instead.
This is your way of making things equal.
I see no other way. When we're kind, they're scared of us. When we're mean, they're scared of us. So maybe meaner gets the respect.
We've seen them time and time again burn our people's homes, like crosses in front of their houses, break into our storefronts, take everything from us, run us out of town.
But we're the animals. Yeah. Yeah, I'm fucking sick of it, Buna. I'm sick of it. I'm over it. I'm done. There's nothing left. Nothing left but the chaos. And that's my ticket right now. It's the chaos for me.
As I said, I've been waiting for this version of you for a long time. It suits you, really.
I think I'm about to make your job a lot easier.
If only that were
Job
true.
is the same. The job is the same. I know I said Hathor and then Buna, but Buna, we're here. Oh, you muted. Okay. Oh, the cat. Yes. You're familiar.
My familiar is just like, hi, what's going on? Black people, what are we doing? I'm black too. I want to talk about it. I got things. I want to make some noise too. All right. Sorry. Settling in, please.
So, the riots. How were you, apart from observing? What was your part in all of this?
The job really never changes, does it? Throughout the ages, I give death. People take life, and I give what I can. It's tragic. It's sad. I can never quit.
Good. There's a lot of violence, a lot of beatings. Not as much death, thankfully. But you are also justice, are you not?
I am equal to all people. The final equalizer, if you will. None may escape
You
my gifts.
good. There's a lot of hurt, a lot of desire for justice, for vengeance, making right. Because it wasn't just Rodney King in that time. There was a girl who was harmed, killed for being accused of stealing orange juice when she had the money to pay for it in hand. So this was all in that time. It was a powder keg, and there you were there to see it. I think you get a lot of cries out in these 5 days. They aren't words. They're just feelings. Pleas that come from the core of them. You see it in their eyes, in the set of their jaw. They need you. Maybe not for all aspects of your job, but certainly parts of it.
I see what I do as necessary for life. But there is me somewhere in there. Sometimes what I give is mercy as well. And other times, yes, it is justice. But it's the times that I give mercy. Those are the ones where I give the biggest gifts that I can.
Of course. Hathor.
I think Hathor, when things start to get hot, realizes that they can't do Harlem again. As important as it is to be there for those who are grieving, Hathor's come to a place in their life where they aren't willing to turn and hide and apply a noble task to the curtain that they're hiding under. So she is right out there with Ayath and some bricks and smashing windows. And she is screaming, and there is a music and a rhythm to the shouting and the running on the asphalt, the hot asphalt in the middle of May, and the just a thrum of release to all of us. Hathor still visits people who would benefit from someone like her, from her touch, but I think she opens up in a willingness to accept and participate in mayhem. Especially, I think she needs to let some steam off, considering it's just so familiar, but watching all of this, but she's not powerless this time. None of us are. And we are different. We're in a different place. We are doing better, different things. And that is worth fighting for. That is worth getting cut on the cheek for from a punch. And that is worth going to visit people in the hospital and having to guide family members to those who are unrecognizable from how badly they've been beaten. And that is worth standing outside the police department, fearing the bullets, but standing there and banging on the doors anyway because someone needs to hear us. So, not necessarily any kind of a champion or anything, but there is a reason it lasts for 5 days.
Absolutely. You spread yourself out amongst the crowd, you and Aya, both there fueling with Anansi woven in between. Your energies are what bring this to a new level, to a new place. You remember the riot in the 30s. You remember the 60s. It feels like echoes of those, so familiar and yet so different and so new. You are ready to stand tall, and the people in the streets are standing with you come what may. In the end, there are deaths. Not nearly as many as there could have been. And everyone looks at this moment. It is certainly a turning point for everyone. We are no longer simply allowing the quiet things to remain quiet. We're saying them out loud.
I think another thing too that Anansi would do in this time as well is that Anansi would work as all of this is going on, knowing that the system has intentionally crafted a schism, particularly between Asian American and African American communities, especially Korean American communities, and that comes to a very pointed head during the riots. And Anansi would be working to kind of diffuse some of those situations as well, knowing that this is just part of the larger system of oppression, that if we're fighting, oppressed people are fighting amongst themselves, they're not fighting the system. And so Nancy would be very keen to kind of diffuse some of those elements going on, and shift some of that anger to where it should be directed.
Yeah. I know I keep having you roll the things. Yes, Hathor. Roll of pork. What's up?
I'll wait because I'm going in a different direction, so I'll wait.
Okay.
Rapport again. I got +4 total.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yes, Hathor.
Something small that will come out of this for Hathor too. Not necessarily for Hathor, but something that her influence, I think, would bring about in rap music specifically. You start to see songs that have narrative, where yes, the chorus repeats, but every single verse is progressing forward a story, and these stories are often of losing loved ones to violence, like what we see in the riots, of rappers losing their girl in a shootout, losing their mothers, losing their fathers, asking their mothers for forgiveness for the things that they've done and had to do to come up, asking their parents, asking their absent fathers why they couldn't bother to be around, apologizing to their children for not being around or the things that they felt that they had to do in order to provide for their children. There's a definite shift in the lyricism that I think Hathor takes out of Ayath's book, almost just naturally out of our time of connection, and Anansi as well, that the expression starts to solidify into something more polished and stories move easier with the music.
The music flourishes. You can see the influence. You're also seeing more, not just gangster rap, but a lot of, intellectual thought rappers coming in. They're talking about real life. They're talking about the struggle, but it's not always about fucking bitches and getting money. That has its place, but there's more substance to it, and that storytelling is certainly the origins of that. And you can feel that shift there as well. So, as we come out of these 5 days, seeing the aftermath, feeling that rage, you're still on the sort of adrenaline high of the moments. The 5 siblings are once again together.
Surprisingly quiet from the rest of you. You normally have a lot to say, adorned in colorful outfits, but now near silence.
I think perhaps just shocked that here we are yet again. That we teach, we try to, especially I try to give lessons and tell stories, but here we are yet again in this same sort of place. It's quite disheartening that we come back to this place again and again.
You muted.
Muted.
Okay,
Thank
there
you.
we go.
We're back, but we haven't come back to the same. I mean, Hathor, Ayath, I barely recognize you from before. You're damn near different people.
You have to change to survive. It's what life asks of us, demands of us. And I'm just glad we are here, surviving.
Yeah, you could call it that.
You have to give it a name.
I'm so tired of everything being so fucking ugly all the time. Can't it be nice for like 10 minutes?
We would
I
be
was at a
if we were
cookout the
only
other
so
day.
lucky.
I was at a cookout the other day, minding my business. Lucky to be invited. Having a wonderful time. Police called an hour in. I mean, for what? We were having a nice time. We were enjoying ourselves. Is that a fucking show? Rated. at a nightclub? Beat up. Is there anywhere that's safe? Is there anywhere that's fun? Is there anywhere that's good? What is good? I'm starting to really think that, you know, I don't even know what to think. It feels good to be able to just fuck off from taking the fucking high road all the time. It feels good to be justified in what we're doing. And I see a glimmer of hope. I see the tiniest bit of the tides turning. A smidge of that. But where I see appreciation, it quickly turns into co-opting. Where I see elevation, it quickly turns into complacency. And now we're getting to a place where some of us are saying things maybe we shouldn't say. I was so excited by this Cosby at first. So excited. Beautiful thing, showing a Black family, showing what Black wealth is like. So many people think all of us are just on welfare and social programs, and that's not true. More of us are going to college year over year. We're doing great. And you know what? Still the stereotypes. And then he comes out here and says this. That's damning for the rest of us. What does that mean for all of us? And like, he's so fucking perfect. Listen, I'm at a place now. Being a god of wealth has always meant something different. Sometimes it's financial wealth. Sometimes it's the wealth that you have in your home. Sometimes it's the wealth of character or talent. Right now, I feel like I'm the god of wealth, and the wealth and currency is anger. And maybe that's not so bad. I mean, it seems to be working out just fine for you and your hip-hop, Hathor.
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult being in the studio and hearing the pain in some of these young men. Having to watch them stop a recording session to break down, to scream, to throw things, just because they're swept up in the memory that they're trying to convey to their people. But man, is it nice to see our people go platinum. Man, is it nice to see girls go from being in the back 3 pixels in the back of a video hiding behind a car to being on the mic. Man, is it nice to talk about getting money, finding love, living fast, being angry, telling our stories, and we don't have to go through anyone but our own people to do it. I am tired. I've learned that I can only really find harmony in the small things. I can't find harmony on the wide scale. But sometimes I think we all have to stop and look at those small things and remember that they're there. As Buna says, the ripples, they add up.
I just feel like we don't have anything. There's got to be something coming that lets people just be, lets them say what's on their minds, because we got the music. But some of those people, they're in it for the money, and that's okay. I'm not one to judge. If you're in it for the money, get your fucking money. But what happens when there's somebody that's dealing with something that's small? What happens when there's somebody that is personally hurt? We can't be everywhere at once. Buna said it. But what happens? Those stories aren't any less important. They're not any less rich. They could change the world, some of them. I mean, all these old folks, we've watched these people go through hell and back and arrive now at a time when we can see more people that look like us on television, in movies, but we still got gangsters and thugs with our faces. We still have all of those things looming over us. Where is the smallness of our world? rather than this monolith that people have somehow built to what they think we are. I want self-expression at an individual level. I want something that's going to get out and touch people. Do you know some of these people out here aren't even reading anymore? They're not even reading. So even on my authors, all the books that I've poured time into, all the poems that have been written, they're just sitting there, just sitting on shelves. My girl Nikki Giovanni was at a university last week. The stadium was half full. Half full for her. Toni Morrison, poet laureate. We're making strides. It means a lot. So why do I feel like it's still so quiet here for us?
What I'm hoping will happen is that the fruits of our labor, all of us, that it will continue to build and grow. And just like the riots was a breaking of something to release something vital, that we will find that space for those small conversations. I think we're still, in a way, kind of enclosed. And eventually, that bottle is going to crack. And eventually, those little stories, that's how it starts. A bottle doesn't break from in just one big piece. It shatters in small ones. I think those small things, they'll find their way to the surface. Our frustration is an eternal one. We have watched over this. We have ridden these waves for time upon time upon time. But for them, they are the small things. They are the blips. They are the footsteps of progress. And while we are tired, we are so very tired, they are the new wealth of energy that will allow those small things to take root. For once in my life, I want to be patient.
God, to know what that feels like.
I think my are coming to an interesting place. In what is the blink of an eye for us, not that long ago, we had to walk days. I had to walk from village to village, from town to town to share stories. And sometimes people would retain those stories and then they would have to move to other places to share them. And then we came to this new place and we discovered new things and new ways to share stories. But even then they were limited because this radio allowed stories to be shared with many people, but without the components of other types of storytelling, the gestures of the storyteller, the facial expressions of the storyteller, those were lost to some degree. But then we got film and television and new ways, again, to share stories with a wider range of people. And today, I don't know how much any of you have fiddled with this Windows 95. It's this interesting thing, new ways to share stories with people instantaneously, in the blink of an eye. And I have a feeling that we are on the cusp of something, that we will continue to find new ways for anyone to share their stories, and not just those who have access to the television cameras and the radio stations. And maybe, just maybe, there is a glimmer of hope that will bring some sort of thing, because at least in all of this, people seeing things has brought about some change. how long did segregation run? But then, when people were able to see for themselves videos of police sicking dogs on us, of them beating us with billy clubs wrapped in barbed wire, it changed some minds. So certainly not all of them, but some minds, when they could see these things for themselves. And we can hope that that will continue, that there will be a trend that our stories will grow and maybe change a few more minds, because change, sadly, in this place is a glacial thing.
I think that Hathor was right about one thing. Well, sorry. Hathor was right about a lot of things. But one thing in particular struck me is that it's how we ride the waves of time, how we swim in the river of space. It feels like you all are finally seeing the much, much, much bigger picture of these waves of life and death. You finally see what I sometimes see. And I'm sorry it's so draining. But we're still on this river. And we can still ride this thing out.
Iath kicks up Doc Marten clad boots onto whatever surface they can find and just like slouches down in the chair they're sitting in. Well, welcome to the portion of the show where Boona gets to say, I told you so. I'm so happy for you. That's wonderful. You've been here the whole time running the race. All of us have finally gotten to the finish line. There's no more Gatorade. There's no more orange slices for anyone. And also, Anansi, you know, you're sitting here talking about, oh, we're going to write down our stories. This Windows 95, there's no papyrus. There's no paper. There's no pens. You're talking about my mediums, throwing them in the garbage. For what? It's a flash in the
tablets.
pan. It'll never work. Tablets. I could be behind a tablet. I do like a tablet. You can put it up in a museum. People come and see it. School trips. I do like that. But as far as this technology is concerned, I've seen things come and go. I had an 8-track. I'll believe it when I see it.
Personally, I'm still stuck on why we need 95 individual windows in order to make I'm still kind of confused
This is
on
what
how
I'm
this
saying.
is practical.
I mean,
Like 95 that's a high number.
it is.
Just seems impractical to me. Surely we're not naming it after the year. Surely we won't do that.
I mean,
That's just duping it. It's only going to last for the year.
I mean,
it
it's
sounds like
better
a
than
racket, is what it sounds like.
It's just like these toys. You get your kids. It's gonna pass. All right?
Flash in the
It's
pan.
gonna pass. Yeah, exactly. There's no way the print book dies.
At least it
Impossible.
has, at least it has its advantages over naming it after a fruit that these white people seem to be obsessed with all their tales about apple seeds and pies and such things as that.
Well, you know, it's American to pretend that your slaves didn't pick your apples for you.
Exactly.
True enough.
Hello, strange fruit. Anyway.
Thank you.
Good
I'm glad
Lord.
I'm glad you all are so optimistic. How the tables have turned. Hathor, I'm glad that you're here drinking your fucking salt tea with me because I am toast. I'm excited to see what the future brings. I don't shy away from it. But at the same time, I think if I am disappointed for the rest of time, there'll be no surprises.
I understand that. I've started tossing around the dreaded R word, retirement. So,
Oh God, are you kidding me?
yeah.
Who's
Many
gonna
I
take your
know.
of
place?
the
I can't do your job.
I'm a hag. I know. I'm old. I'm throwing in the towel, maybe? I'm not sure.
Get over yourself. Black don't crack, honey.
You know what? My bad. I should know better.
many
Tyrant.
of the other gods have sort of gone in the way of stories. They are remembered, but not necessarily active. You all have remained whole, mostly, and certainly in with the people rather than merely the concepts and the things spoken of in humanities classes sometimes, not often. Um, but I think, as we were speaking of 95, you move from a riot to a march. It is DC. There are countless people walking the streets. Black folk walking to the national mall. Held by the NAACP there are about 1 million of them out there marching to promote equality. There was an opportunity, a hope, a chance to give folks another opportunity to choose the peaceful option.
Iath shows up begrudgingly.
Fair.
He presents masculine because apparently this is for men. And grows out a little mustache in preparation to make sure that acceptance is not difficult. He hands out bottles of water, snacks, drinks, make sure people stay, keeping mindful of their health, funds buses for people to go, even though deep inside their heart, they're just like, more optimism. I love it. It's great. Maybe this will change my mind. I will allow myself to be changed. They kind of look in the mirror that morning, repeat that mantra a few times before heading out and going to DC to join.
Absolutely. It is, of course, as mentioned, the Million Man March, trying to put a new face on the black male. Very much so reminiscent of some of the practices from the 60s, trying to put a good face on black culture. Because far too often we are made to make ourselves more palatable. But if we want to be in this world, we have to play the game, right? But seeing these truly almost 1 million people sitting in the heart of our nation, some fists in the air, some peace signs. There's something to be said about the feelings of potential, the possibility for change, even if it doesn't feel likely. You still see hope there. You all have gone through the ages, and you can see that in each one of these people, the DNA, the muscle memory of spirit, they can see and feel the struggle, but you can also see and feel and hear the hope. So, around the table, one more time. Buna, no death here. But are you present?
Of course, always present, always watching, just in case. It's DC after all. And they don't call the death capital for nothing, sadly. But it's a wonderful event for those who choose to make it wonderful. It has problems. Oh, it has a lot of problems. But the intention is well-meaning, if not flawed. And thus we see our Black people again in this light. Beautiful, but flawed. Which somehow makes them even more beautiful. I watch, when I see how we got here again. Malcolm X, his death years ago, leading to this moment. A number of other brothers and sisters who passed were killed through injustice. Sorry, my cat just like swiped at my privates, and I was like, why? She's like mad. She wants to be a co-star. The civil rights leaders who passed, making this moment possible. The individuals, the unsung heroes, the ones who had an astounding impact, whose names many people will never know. They lived and died for this moment to happen still. For us to take place in the center stage one more time. Not perfect, but nonetheless, letting the world know that we're here.
Let's do Hathor.
Sure. I'd like to preemptively apologize though, because we did just get a new puppy in this house, and she is letting her mind be known right now. She conveniently just stopped, but I imagine she will start wailing again soon. So just, I feel like I preemptively need to apologize. She's not realized she's Black yet. We will correct that quickly.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
So I think Hathor, she's not like, I'm trying to think of how to words here. I think she starts letting go of this need to be frontline. Not necessarily the optimism, but just the need to be the person on the front lines, charging in, waving the banner, right up there with the war drums. I think she is finally comfortable in letting go and letting people take what little morsel of our influence and run and see what progress they will sow with it. So I think as time moves forward, she spends more time with her son. I think Horace is more important to her now more than ever because she can finally be all facets of a person to him, not just his mother, but a well-rounded person who has something to offer him in the way that he has always had something to offer to the world. And whether or not people would disagree with that, Hathor has always felt that way, and it's nice to be able to step into that. I think she spends a lot of time at women's shelters, especially domestic violence has always been a thing, but I think she's starting to really internalize, especially this conversation about the optimism and the small things, that maybe these little things we've always let slide shouldn't be allowed to slide. And so she starts spending time with people who are experiencing things and experiencing stories and hopes that their siblings will come visit after, so that when these stories break, they break loud, so that the people that she helped come up, which she will never regret, when they start acting a fool with young girls, that comes around later. It is now more than ever about embracing both parts of who she was and who she is, and finally truly blending them and accepting she cannot control where her music goes or what it makes, but she can control how she helps the people who hear it. So she's reached acceptance.
I mean, it's practically enlightened. Oh yeah.
Iath finds themselves more open than expected at the march. They've always been someone who tries to create the atmosphere, and this time instead were affected by it. And I think they get in their head that there are other ways to be who they are. They don't really let go of this moment of who and how they've been, but they start kind of branching out spoken word, new ways to deliver points of view. The people going to shows and things like that are more interested in that art form are more likely to listen, are more likely to change. They start trying to recognize places where they can make change that is real. They see the tiny changes that have been brought about in radicalizing white youth with their efforts in rock and roll and punk rock music. And they start wondering, where else can I put my fingers in the pot and stir a little bit? She heads to Chicago and sees a young politician trying to step into some big shoes. Does what she can to make sure that people hear his message and hear his words. Focuses more on the language and the literacy than the wealth, because that's kind of the meaning of that has twisted for them, and it's turned into something more contentious than expected. And they instead kind of take their work internal, and try to spread positivity through change and attempt to kind of reclaim that optimism that they've lost.
Very good. Anansi.
I think Anansi would look at this march and think back to what it's modeled after, when a man by the name of Martin Luther King led another march to Washington. And think about how when he was alive, he was reviled and decried by the newspapers across the United States as a rabble rouser, as a troublemaker who needed to stay in his own lane, and all of these other horrid things. But then in the subsequent years, he became the sole architect in the minds of white Americans of the civil rights movement. That as if he single-handedly did everything. And not to say that he didn't put in work, but and didn't make some great strides, but he becomes the acceptable Negro, the one that can be held up as a champion of what Black people can and should be. And part of that are marches like this, peaceful demonstrations, because Lord knows that being here in a country that came about from a violent revolution, that's okay and even seen as patriotic and noble when white people do it. But when Black people do it, when brown people do it, it's not the right way. We're not following Dr. King's fine example. We're not following Gandhi's example, because that's how we should rise up and protest. And so I think while it is a moment for solidarity, it's also a moment for contemplation, as Anansi thinks about what Ayath has said and his other siblings have said, that we are in this odd place where others feel a need and a desire to manage our protest, to manage our the telling of our stories, as they've always done. But it's coming, I think, to an even finer point in this moment for Anansi, as Anansi looks around and sees that and hopes for a new direction that will allow new forms of expression as Black people find themselves coming back to the same place and being told the same things. Be patient. Just wait. Your time will come. And time again, we ask when that time is supposed to be. As we get small incremental changes over time, even as we hope for more sweeping change.
As we sit in the 90s and continue year to year with the looming threat of the end of all of it, with Y2K threatening to destroy the world, we see our four gods, our siblings, making it, getting through, finding the little moments to keep going, finding the little things that spur them on. And for now, I think that's where we'll say farewell. We should have one more episode where we're going to be stepping into the modern day. So I want to thank everyone for watching. Thank you for being here with us. As always, have had a fantastic time of just sort of letting these four incredible people blow my socks off every time. I am Q, You can find me on the internet at Midnight Inc. That's Midnight_INQ. Q is my name. I'm sure you get it. I have things happening. I'm not going to talk about it right now. I don't have the brain for that. Just find me in places somewhere on the internet. We'll start up. Cameras have shifted, so we'll start up at the top. Stefan.
Yes. So you can find me on Twitter at Umbral_NightX. You can find me on Blue Sky at UmbralNightX. Always musing about social issues, history, TTRPGs, movies, and a range of other things. I've got some things cooking, some projects coming up that hopefully we'll be able to announce here soon. So keep an eye out for those. And I just have to say to everyone here, y'all kicked my ass today. Y'all kicked my ass. And I'm here for it. Here for every bit of it. This has been an amazing journey, and I am both it's bittersweet. Looking forward to the next episode. Phenomenal.
Mark.
Hey everyone, it's your boy Mark J here. Yeah, this was phenomenal. Again, this cast is I'm glowing, and I can see you all glowing as well. If you watch this episode, go hug somebody, go have some tea or grab a beer or just get horizontal. Go tone down. And that goes for us as the cast too. I hope that we can all refine our who we are as performers and people. You can find me at Apochromatic Unlimited, where we're doing really cool things. We're a space that uplifts by POC in the TTRPG space. You can find my podcast that I'm especially proud of. I just dropped it with Candace the Magnificent, where Candace made tea, like a big Gatorade jug of tea, and then just spilt it everywhere over the whole space. What it's really about is having conversations with us, people of color in the space, and allowing us the voice to, allowing us the experience to voice our concerns and our thoughts and our feelings and our loves and our hates, etc. Also, one thing I'm doing on my podcast is the TTRPG Green Book. So if you are on my podcast, you get to add, in pencil, mind you, to the Green Book of safe people, because we need to communicate about who is safe and who is not in this space, because there are many people just fronting. Anyway, that's my story. None Shot Podcast is what it's called. I'm Mark J. Thank you so much.
Liz. Hit you.
So thought I was gonna go last. Hey, I'm here. Hey everybody. I am Dauntless. You can call me Daunt or Liz. You can find me on Twitter at Daunt_Liz. That's DAUNT_Liz. It's on private, but baby, don't let that scare you. I'm hiding from capitalism, not from you. So come on in. You can also find me on Twitch at Dauntless, but all together DAUNTLYS, where I am a TTRPG performer, but I am also a variety streamer on Team Neat Dude. So if you like this vibe of me not quite knowing what I'm doing, but add games into that, you can find plenty of that over there. I do stuff in places. I don't have any ongoing stuff right now. Everything is about to start. So find me here on Saturdays and don't worry about the other stuff. I am so humbled and honored to be here with this cast. I am sad that we are looking towards the end, but I am looking forward to the end. And I am grateful to have gone on this journey with all of you. Yeah, this has been so moving. If you're in chat and you enjoyed this episode and you learned something, if you felt something, please tell folks to come up and show out for the finale. As emotional as it is for you, it is for us, and we need more spaces for Black Joy. I'm gonna get off my soapbox now.
Fantastic. Candace.
Liz is off their soapbox, but I'm gonna like step up and be like, yeah, what Liz said. People are constantly talking about there's not enough old black tables in the space, and we're over here like, so come through. My name is Candace the Magnificent. You can catch me over at Blue Sky and Twitter at the Candace Marie, and then everywhere else at Candace Magnificent. That includes itch.io, where I have released my very first game. I'm being real quiet about it because I'm feeling real sensitive and life has been kicking me in my pants. But it is a choose your own adventure called Weird Little Guys. If you are interested in having a creepy / sad / uplifting time, and you like cats, you can catch me every other Saturday over on Matihi's channel doing What We Do in the Shallows, an original 5e horror pirate campaign that is very gay. You can catch me in the also very gay and mostly BIPOC Otherworld Hollywood over on 12-Sided Stories, wherever you catch your pods. Some wild shit's going on in there, and it's great. You can also see me later this month. At the end of the month, I'm going to be Tybalt, Prince of Cats, in a charity stream sponsored by the Twitch Women's Guild for Women's History Month. That is going to be taking place over 2 or 3 sessions the last weekend of the month. I'll also be on Just the Humans channel next week, I believe on Monday and Wednesday, hanging out with some folks for Monster of the Week and Kids on Bikes to raise money for Gaza and Palestine. And yeah, there's a bunch of stuff I'm doing. There might be a short animated film thing that's coming out, I think, on the 4th as well. So keep my socials. I'll yell about it there and you can enjoy.
Oh, real
Fantastic.
quick. Candy, you
Yes.
dropped a game and you didn't say anything? Come
You didn't
on
say
now.
nothing. You didn't say Nathan.
Yeah, you was being too
Wow.
sly on that one.
I love you so much. I need you to start talking about yourself more and louder, please,
I'm gonna do a
because
voice.
I am offended that I was not the first person to find out that you released a game called Weird Little Guys. That's
It's
exactly
about cats.
my demographic. It's about
Yeah.
Candace.
I'm sorry.
Go get Candace's
I'm
game.
shy about it.
Yeah.
all of that,
Mm,
all of that and more.
yeah.
I'm not.
Go
I
listen, I'm
will
not.
game
tweet.
right
I
now.
will tweet. I might tweet
Okay.
later today. I might.
You
Okay.
Later
might.
today.
If you don't do it
Address
today,
that.
I'm gonna let you know.
If
I
it's
will
not
do
later
it.
today,
I will blow
it's
it up.
definitely tomorrow.
Okay, so hear me
I'm
out. Hear me out.
squinting at
I'm not
you.
gonna say. I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, yeah.
If you want to look at it, it's on CandaceMagnificent.itch.io.
Okay.
Okay,
Well.
there we go. Y'all better put some eyeballs on that.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Please.
definitely. Definitely.
All right, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here, and we will see you in the next episode. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.